Good afternoon, Rotarians.
Good afternoon, Tim.
Good afternoon, Rotarians. Thank you. Welcome to the last meeting of January 29th, 2026. I am your president, Tim Lilwitz. There are almost 90 of us here today, so give ourselves a round of applause. Real quickly before lunch, we had the pleasure of toasting some of our new members to the club and their Rotary sponsors. Just so you know that the newer members are seated at a couple tables in the back there. So please take a moment if you haven't met some of our newer members to say hello when we greet each other. That spirit of connection is what makes this club so special. So, and speaking of greeting, thanks to our greeters today, Susan Voss and Jackie Norris. Round of applause. Jackie is doing double volunteer duty today and is going to lead us in our moment of inspiration, the Pledge of Allegiance, and the four-way test, and then we will greet our fellow Rotarians. So, Jackie.
How are you today? Great. So, some of you have heard me talk about the practice of gratitude, and I thought there was no better way to think about ending January to asking ourselves, have we been grateful? Now, some of you, we've got a prop here, some of you know that I practice gratitude so much that I wake up in the morning, every morning, and I have 3 slips of paper, and I fill it out, and I write 3 things that I'm grateful for, and I put it in that jar right there. So you can hold it up so everybody can see it. And the reason that I'm bringing it is to show you that the actual, I know I'm still working on it, so I've got a ways to go. So, but the point being is that it's an actual practice that you do because, you know, life goes so fast sometimes that you often don't think about the smallest things. And gratitude, you can put it down. You are an excellent man. But you know, gratitude has been part of our lives and part of our practice for generations and beyond. It's been a religious practice, right? So whether in the Bible, where Thessalonians talks about giving thanks in all circumstances, or in the Quran, where you see on a regular basis gratitude is woven into daily life expressions. In the Torah, gratitude is expressed as well, by when Leah named her child Judah to thank God. And we see gratitude even embedded in the core pillars of atheism. And so gratitude is all around us. It's also really good, where's Patty Quinless? It's really good for our mental health and our connection to society. And if you think about it, when was the last time you gave somebody a very honest, genuine compliment? Just raise your hand, like think about it. Okay, it felt really good, didn't it? It felt good for you, it felt really good for the person who received it. That's what actually also builds strong communities and strong societies. So what I thought I would do is make myself vulnerable and show you or tell you this is what I wrote today. Okay, so this is what I was grateful for today. The first thing was that I saw a red-headed woodpecker, but I actually stopped to look at it and to marvel at it and to think about it. And I'll tell you, as somebody who runs pretty fast, I haven't done that for a long time. And speaking of free time, which some of you know, I had more than I planned because of all that happened, I got to spend a lot of time with my dad in December. And I was present. And for those of you who maybe have gone really fast in your lives, when you actually slow down and you realize you're present, it feels so good. And so I just want to encourage you to think about what it means to be fully present with somebody when you're having a conversation. And last, I want to say that, you know, even in a country right now where democracy feels like it's in peril, things are providing a lot of anxiety and angst for people across sectors, across political affiliations. But you know what? I'm really grateful that we have a democracy and we have a constitution and we have to believe in that and we just have to keep fighting for that because that is something to be really grateful for in America. So with that patriotic note, I'm going to ask all of you to stand, please, and say the Pledge of Allegiance with me. And the flag is here. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now we'll say the four-way test.
Is it the truth? Is it fair to all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
And now you may greet your fellow Rotarians.
Hey, Brian, good to see you. How are you? Hello, Scott.
Brian, how are you? Good to see you, sir. Yes.
Hello,
Oh, hey, how are you, Kathleen? Good. I might just go around
All right. We will return to our seats so we can get going. We do have a few things to go through before we get to Deanna. So, as is tradition, we have several guests here today. We will announce our guests. And guests, if you would just stand when I call your name, remain standing, and then it'll be just a second. We'll greet you all with applause at the end. So, first we have Paul McCartney, Head of Executive Communications at Principal, the guest of our speaker. We have Drew.
Where's Ringo?
What?
Where's Ringo?
Oh. Paul, or I mean, Bob, you cease to amaze me. Drew Rosaki from CBRE, guest of our own Bill Wright. We have Nicole Schleif-Sin, from the development manager at PHC, a guest of Colleen Rogers Messenger. We have Zan McNelly, the CEO of ZLR Ignition, guest of Becky Greenwald. We have Judy Schneller, the spouse of our own John Schneller. And then we have Lucy Kloft up here at the head table from Principal, a guest of Scott Bennett. So thank you all of our guests, appreciate it. We do have a birthday today. Happy birthday to John Isles. Is John here? Happy 29th, John. A reminder, real quick, that we put this in the bulletin this week, but a reminder, your suggested names to name the puppy Jake Foundation new puppy are due to the Rotary office today. So, as you heard from Becky Greenwald, our Rotary Club Des Moines Foundation president last week about this initiative, again, there was a story in the Tuesday newsletter, so if you have any more questions, please see Kitty or myself. We're happy to talk to you, but hopefully, I think we have a number of names already submitted, and then once we're done, we'll get a small committee together to pick 3 or 4 or so names, and we'll start voting very soon. So hopefully raise a little money for the foundation and have some fun doing it. So get your names for the puppy into the office. Also, as we've announced the last couple weeks, the End Polio Now Iowa Wolves game is Sunday, February 22nd. So again, use that QR code if you want to attend the game. If you can't attend the game, but want to donate tickets, please use the forms that are on your table to do so. Each $10 of each ticket goes to help end polio and Rotary's mission to do so. So consider buying a couple tickets for this important cause. As of today, I think we have 56 tickets donated so far. We're hoping to get to 100, so we have a few weeks to do that. So please sign up to do so. All right. Finally, before we get to our speaker, Rotary Law and Disorder is back this week. For our guests and those of you who haven't been in a while, Rotary Law and Disorder is my attempt at humor at my chosen profession. I'm an attorney here in town, so I like to go out into the interwebs and find the most outrageous or ridiculous lawsuits or things that lawyers have done and share them with you because we all appreciate good lawyer jokes. So this one is a little bit long, so you'll have to stick with me a little bit, but I wanted to use it. It's a good one. So some of you know I love dogs. I have 2 dogs, but I became a dog lover thanks to my wife. It's not the result of this case that I'm going to tell you about that's unbelievable, because I think it's settled out of court, but it's the facts and the players that are involved that are all true but sound almost unbelievable. So Portland, Oregon, this is 2003. Doug Baker, 45, found a German Shepherd named Fremont while he was driving around, and this had happened a couple years previously from when the story came out, but because Doug's a good person, Doug got out of his car. He found Fremont limping in the street, and so he got out, took him home, and he spent upwards of $4,000 to get Fremont in good shape. And of course, Doug says his life has never been the same and loves his dog. Again, very admirable. This will take a spin in a few minutes. So Doug Baker, who lived on a houseboat and owned and operated his own auto repair shop, would leave Fremont with his girlfriend, Lisa Klein, during the day. And because German Shepherds are a little skittish, Fremont only trusted Baker or Klein and was otherwise, again, sort of lunging or nippy with strangers, right? That typical type of dog. So Baker and Klein decide to go out for dinner one day, and this is in 2003. Baker hires a dog sitter and pays her $30. While at dinner, a truck driving by the house, I think this was his girlfriend's house, backfires and scares Fremont, who was out in the yard, jumps the fence, and runs away, right? So Baker and his girlfriend get home for dinner. They can't find Fremont. They're out looking for Fremont. Baker, as any good dog lover would do, he actually bought a display ad in the paper so he could include Fremont's photo. He offered a $1,000 reward. He circulated flyers and put up a website, all normal behavior. Again, this is taking a twist here. Then, after doing all that, still can't find Fremont, he lets his auto shop go out of business so he can devote full time to finding Fremont, the dog. To pay for these expenses, he starts taking out early distributions from his retirement fund and actually postpones his engagement to his girlfriend because he didn't have any money. Getting even a little bit weirder, Fremont then hires an animal tracker to follow the dog's scent. The tracker declares that the dog has been abducted. Baker believes this, so Baker hires not one, but 4 different animal psychics to divine where Fremont supposedly is. Each session costs between $55 and $100 with these psychics. They all say that they have communicated with Fremont on another level, but when Baker would follow their leads, lo and behold, that would be a dead end and Fremont would not be there. He then hires a witch to cast spells to bring Fremont home. Again, doesn't work. So finally, well, I shouldn't say finally, in the last weird step that I found in this case, Baker went out and actually put his own urine in the area where Fremont was last reportedly seen in the hopes that the dog would smell his scent and stay put. So this gets us to about day 62 after Fremont has disappeared. Baker has spent over $20,000 looking for his dog. At that point, the Portland Oregonian, the local newspaper, runs a long-form story about how Baker loved his dog so much he's done all this, right? And just as he's about to hire his 5th psychic, and only 2 days after the newspaper story ran, someone reads the story and calls in a tip that, hey, Fremont's right here out in front of my house or in the street, right? So Baker goes there, and lo and behold, Fremont is there in the street, just 2 miles from where he had escaped, apparently not abducted at all. And we all say, this is such a happy ending, right, President Tim? What does this have to do with Rotary law and disorder? Within 7 days, Baker and his girlfriend sued the pet sitter for $160,000 for the expenses from their search, lost income from his business, and the emotional damages. And this is where it gets really good. Baker hires Jordy Duckler, the animal law practice lawyer, who claims on his website, I am the most well-known and experienced animal law attorney in this country. I looked up this website, it still exists today. Google Jordy Duckler, Portland, Oregon. He claims to have handled over 3,000 animal law cases. Again, the lawsuit is filed within 7 days, and Jordy, of course, holds a press conference and says, through the lawsuit, we hope to help redefine personal property laws, and says pet sitters should be held to higher standards of care than those people watching over other less important personal property like plants or just house sitting. So again, I wish I had a better funny ending, but it gets settled out of court. I found there were no laws changed in Portland or in Oregon. But again, Jordy has successfully resolved yet another animal law case. So if you have an animal case, I suggest you call Jordy out in Portland, Oregon, because he's going to get to the end of it. But that is our Rotary law and disorder for today. So now the incomparable Will Brown will be introducing our program. Will?
Hello, fellow Rotarians. I don't know about you guys, but I think I'm definitely going to get a gratitude jar at home. That is an amazing, amazing thing. So thank you so much for that inspiration today. Today we have the privilege of hearing from someone whose career is nothing short of inspiring. Deanna Strabel, Chair, President, and CEO of Principal Financial Group. Deanna's journey with Principal began with a summer internship. She was then hired into the actuary department, and over the past 35 years, she's held nearly every leadership role imaginable, leading the company's insurance business, serving as an architect of its specialty benefits division, and serving as chief financial officer. As CFO, Deanna helped lead a full strategic review, charted a new enterprise strategy to carry Principal into the future. She became president and COO in 2024 and stepped into the CEO role in January of 2025, adding board chair responsibilities a few months later. Beyond her corporate leadership, Deanna is deeply committed to community impact, which is great. It's something that we love a lot here in Rotary. She serves on the boards of Elephants Health and Simpson College, chairs United Way of Central Iowa's Workplace Giving Campaign, and serves as a vice chair of Greater Des Moines Partnerships Board of Directors and Executive Committee. Recently, she co-chaired Habitat for Humanity's Women Build and also held leadership roles with Limra Loma Global, helping shape the future of insurance and financial services industry. Her dedication to talent development, innovation, community engagement reflects the values that have guided her throughout her entire career. Please join me in welcoming Deanna Strabel.
Thank you, Will. What Will forgot to say was our sons played basketball together,
They
so
did.
we traveled personally as well as that. So first of all, I just want to thank you for inviting me today, and it's wonderful to be here, and thanks to everyone for being here as well. As I look around the room, I see a number of people that have interactions with Principal, whether it be employees, former employees, retirees, customers, former insurance commissioners that we've worked with, but ultimately I just want to thank everyone in the room for their partnership with Principal, and hopefully that continues long into the future. So what I thought I'd do today is maybe touch on 4 things, but hopefully have time for questions as well. For those of you that have heard me speak, especially Lucy, who's heard a lot of me the last year, some of this will be repetitive, but hopefully you'll glean a little bit from that. And for those that don't know me or haven't heard this, hopefully you'll glean some things from that as well. So what I thought I'd do is build a little bit on Will's background, give you a little bit of my background personally, then talk about my career at Principal, talk about the last year as I moved into this role and some of the priorities as we move into the future. So hopefully that will help, and we'll have some quiet time for questions as well. So 12:55, is that when I need to be done?
Sure. Or
Okay.
if earlier, we'll have more time for questions. It's up to you.
No, that'll include questions.
Okay.
So I'll just start a little bit on my background. So interestingly enough, I ran into two people from earlier in my life here, even as we sat here today. One, a daughter of one of my mom's best friends, and someone I graduated from high school. So I think that tells you that I'm a native Central Iowan. I grew up here. I actually grew up about a half hour south of Des Moines on a road. So you could call it a town, but it wasn't a town. It was a road between Martinsdale and St. Mary's, or between Indianola and Winterset, whichever one you want to talk about. But I went to school here in Des Moines. So I went to Sacred Heart, I went to Dowling. I'm not Catholic, it's a long story, but ultimately my parents really prioritized that they wanted their children to have good education. I'm a first generation college graduate, and ultimately they wanted to give to their children something they didn't have, and that was part of the journey along the way there. I then actually went to Northwestern University. I know we have a few fellow Wildcats in the room. And so spent 4 great years in Chicago. Saw the Cats football team win once in 4 years, so not one of their strongest football perspectives, but ultimately a wonderful experience. And you know, I'll get into it a little bit later. When I left to go there, I didn't know if I'd ever come back to Iowa, but obviously I have been here for a long time. So ultimately that took a turn as well. I met my husband at Principal. He's also an actuary and has a very successful career here. He actually got invited to be a guest today, but I actually told him he couldn't come because I don't enjoy presenting to my family members, and so he'll come another time.
That's fine.
I have 2 children, 22-year-old, 25-year-old. One is in law school at University of Minnesota. My son just graduated from Xavier in Cincinnati and just started work at Deloitte there. And so that has been a huge part of my story. It's my #1 job to be a great wife and a great mother, and to be able to do that by also having a great career. It's been something that I've been very, very proud of. You mentioned my giving back to the community. That is something that obviously Principal is known, but also we want to make sure that our executives, our leaders, our employees, and ultimately me personally is giving back to this great community. And I've been very deliberate at choosing those things that I have a passion about, and Will mentioned a number of those, including United Way, including Habitat for Humanity, including higher education, Simpson College, and ultimately we'll continue to lean into that as well. Outside of work, I love to travel. I think my assistant said I was on the road 120 days in 2025. You know, that's more than half. I was living in a hotel out of a suitcase, but that was really part of, and I'll talk about it, my priorities in 2025 was to ensure a transition that was successful, and ultimately that did require interacting with many people that we work with around the globe. But I also like to travel for fun as well, did a little bit of that. I like to read. I like to read fiction, not nonfiction. Ultimately, I have enough nonfiction through my work, and ultimately you need a little fiction to balance things out. And I'm a huge fan of college sports and wine. One of my best pictures in my phone is me standing next to Zach Eady. When he got the Wooden Awards, I look very little relative to that. But ultimately, you know, I love that part, and it's just a competitive nature relative to this, and it's a great part of the year relative to that. You see the Principal ads on many college sports, and again, that's not because I love college sports, it's because it's a way for us to interact with our customers. Our primary customers are businesses, business owners, and we know that live sports is something they involve in, but I do personally enjoy that as well. And my comms person doesn't love me saying this, but I also have a passion about wine, and a lot of times travel and wine go together, and so Walla Walla, Tuscany, Napa, Sonoma. Those are all places that we like to go with friends as well. That's me. So now let's just talk a little bit about Principal. I have, like I said, I didn't think I'd come back to Iowa when I left, but I interned at Principal and got a flavor of what it did. I also, from a practical perspective, said, okay, I can go somewhere else and take my vacations to travel back to Iowa to visit my family, or I can work in Iowa and take vacations and travel elsewhere. So I love the company, I love the work, but there was a practical side that brought me back. But I'm sure if you asked me 36 years ago, are you going to stay at Principal for 35 years, and are you going to, you know, ultimately be the leader of the company, it was never anything in my mind. And as mentioned, I've had over 15 roles at Principal. Some of those took me outside my comfort zone, which I'll talk about. Some of them were technical roles, some of them were business roles. I like to talk about my career in chapters, and there's 4 real chapters I talk about it in my career. First one is, as mentioned, I started in our actuarial rotation program. Lucy is a benefactor to that as well. If you don't know what an actuary is, they like math, they do stuff with math, but they're a little more creative than accountants. It's probably do I have a lot of accountants? But part of what a lot of large insurance companies do is they rotate their new hires throughout the businesses to get exposure to all of the parts of the company. And so I did that for about 5 or 6 years, including I did 1 rotation in Brussels, Belgium. So I spent 18 months working in Brussels, Belgium for Principal. And we don't have a business in Belgium, so they sent me across the other side of the world to be loaned out to an organization that we were a member of. And so it was an incredible personal experience, but it was also an incredible experience from a professional perspective. I was working in an office of 5 people, and so it really exposed you to all aspects of the business, and it was really my first introduction to global business. When I raised my hand for that, I didn't have a passport, never been outside the US, didn't know where Belgium was, had no idea what languages they spoke. But ultimately it was an incredible experience, and very fortunate that Principal invested in me so early in my career. The next part of my career is honestly the one that I love the most, which I spent 20 years really being in different roles within our insurance businesses and our employee benefits business. So think about life insurance, disability insurance, dental insurance, vision insurance, primarily offered to employers, but also at times to business owners and executives. And the reason I like those roles, and I ultimately was the president of that division of Principal. We have 3 primary businesses: retirement, benefits and protection, and asset management, and I ultimately was the president of that business. And why I enjoyed that is, one is the diversity of running a business. You get involved in everything from dealing with complaints, to technology projects, to going to market, customers, product, pricing, all aspects of the business. And you're held responsible for a scorecard that's really easy to understand. And so spent 20 years in that, including taking our employee benefit business from something that was minuscule, about $30 million of earnings, to today where it's earning over $500 billion. And so again, building something for Principal was something that I loved. Then in 2017, Dan Houston came to me and asked me to move into the CFO role. And to be honest, my first reaction was, no, I really like what I'm doing, and why would I move back into a technical focused role? Many of you in this room know Dan. He's somewhat persuasive, and ultimately we came to the understanding that this was a good move for the company, it was a good move for me. And so in early 2018, I took over as the Chief Financial Officer of the organization, as well as ran strategy for the organization as well, which I think was what he got. That was the hook, right? We'll make you the CFO, but we'll give you strategy to help you understand that it's more than just a technical that's helping to drive the enterprise forward. That was a great experience. It really gave me exposure to our other businesses at Principal, the retirement and the asset management business, much deeper involvement with the board, much deeper involvement with our investors, our partners around the globe. And then late last year started the journey into this role. And so, you know, it's been an incredible year, an incredible career with Principal. And a lot of people say, why did you stay at Principal for 35 years? And, you know, ultimately it comes down to three things: the work you're doing, the people you work with, and the company that you're part of. And so from the work you're doing, I like I just said, I was always challenged. I was learning new things. I was never bored, never got complacent, and so the work was always something that kept me going. The people. I worked with incredibly smart people that I was always learning from, but it was also, they were caring people. They were, you know, even though we're a huge company, it's a family, and it feels that way. And then the company, two things there I'll bring out. One is we do incredibly important work. And, you know, one of the things I love about Des Moines is it's a small town in some situations. And so I love to tell the story. I go to the grocery store, and I have people come up and thank me for what Principal does for them, whether that be their monthly retirement check, whether that be a life insurance benefit. And so ultimately what we do is important. And then I'd say the other thing is the culture that we had there, and the support I got from being able to not just do great work at work, but also being able to have the ability to fulfill my number one job, which I said was being a great wife and a great mother. And so Principal embraced flexibility way before it was the norm to do, and that supportive flexibility has been another reason I've stayed there as well. I also get asked, well, what do you think contributed to your success? And, you know, first of all, it's not my success. It's a team of great people. But, you know, the couple of things that I like to mention there is, one, I did raise my hand early and was willing to go outside my comfort zone. So of the 15 roles, there were only 2 that I raised my hand for. One was to go to Europe, work in Brussels, and one was to move from the actuarial role into the business leadership role. And so that, I think, if I look back, if I hadn't done either of those, it would have been tough to continue on this journey. Second, I've had great mentorship. And, you know, I think all of us know that is incredibly helpful to have people that have your back, but also can nudge you. And, you know, again, I told a few examples there, but there were a number of those opportunities that my initial reaction was, no, not now. And it's been great to have people that I worked with that was able to step back and say, here's why you might want to consider this. And so that mentorship has been really important. Curiosity and understanding the big picture. I do think that was part of my liberal arts education at Northwestern was, you know, don't just do the task, understand how it fits into the overall organization. So I remember early on, not just wanting to price a product, but how do we sell this? Who are our customers? Who are our competitors? And kind of understanding the big picture. And then I'd say the last one, and it's been one I've talked a lot to our employees about, is I did lean into some areas that weren't natural strengths of mine. And those tend to be a little bit more on the soft side. And one I would actually say is public speaking. I used to physically get sick before I did anything like this. I did not get sick today, and so I learned how to do that. And ultimately, I'd say, you know, some people like to say don't lean into your weaknesses. Mine is lean into your strengths that are hard strengths, but on your soft skills, make sure that they're not derailing in weaknesses. And so how do you get them to a level of aptitude that is not standing in your way? So that takes me out to talk a little bit about the last year. So just a little bit of a background. So I'm the 16th CEO of Principal. We've been around for 145 years. So incredibly proud to follow in the footsteps. There's been a number of former CEOs that I've worked very directly with, Dan, Larry, Barry, Dave Drury. A few of those I still consider very strong mentors. And then just a reminder of Principal today. We have 20,000 employees. About 40% of those are outside the United States. About 35% of them are in central Iowa. So we are, obviously Des Moines, our global headquarters, but a very different reach than we were 145 years ago. $20 billion market cap. It's almost 21 if you look today, but I'm not looking. But you know, we went public 25 years ago, 2001. And a fun fact relative to that is we were the first IPO post 9/11, and honestly kind of opened the markets back up after 9/11. And so again, been a great journey relative to that, but do spend a lot of time with investors around the globe talking about Principal. 70 million customers around the globe, with the majority of those actually outside the US. And in addition to Des Moines, I'd say our big talent hubs are New York, Charlotte, North Carolina, India are really those talent hubs. But again, we have employees in probably 20, 25 countries around the globe. So as I stepped into 2025, and I already talked about really kind of travel schedule, I had about 5 priorities and really what's kept me busy over the last year. First was we needed a smooth transition. You know, ultimately, whether it's your employees, whether it's your customers, whether it's your joint venture partners, whether it's be your investors, whether it be anyone that you're interacting with and driving business, they needed to understand Dan transitioning to Deanna. And so the first 6 months of the year, I not only traveled a lot, I traveled a lot with Dan to make sure that handoffs were happening in a very successful way. And what I had to remember on all of those is whether any of those, they either don't know me at all, they only knew me as the CFO, or they had the minority would be people that have seen me through that entire career. And especially for an employee, you know, when you're the CFO, you're not always the most popular individual. And ultimately, I had to make sure they understood how I cared about employees, how I cared about our clients, how I cared about what we did. And ultimately, they understood the whole perspective there. And so, again, if you follow me on LinkedIn, you can. There's a lot of travel that I've done, but it was all really around that smooth transition. Second, and this is really it's really fortunate that Principal was in a really good spot when I took over. And so we're delivering on great results. We had just rolled out our enterprise strategy. And ultimately, it was really about how do we continue the momentum forward. And it wasn't about what are those big arm movements, but how do we lean in and make sure that we are focused and doing what we need to do every day to fulfill the needs of our customers, but also deliver on ensuring that we're a successful company for the next 145 years. And so ultimately, that's been a lot of what I've really worked on, which I say it was moving the strategy from the what to the how. Ultimately, the next one, and for those that have heard me talk about, AI has been a priority for me as I went throughout 2025. Technology has always been so critical in our strategy at Principal, but AI creates something new. And I just got the 5 minutes, Stan, so I'm going to hurry. But AI has been really important for me because ultimately I knew it needed to be a part of our future, but I wanted to make sure that our employees were coming along the journey. And so one of the things we did is we actually did literacy training for all 20,000 employees. And when I say training, that's 4 to 6 hours of training on AI, starting with the management team and going through every employee of the organization. And now every new hire gets that when they walk into the doors at Principal. And so it was making sure the base was strong and then ultimately then we can build upon that to drive impact across the organization. And then the last one is really just about the culture. You know, ultimately we are a talent organization. You don't buy a thing that we're developing, and so it is critical that we have the talent that we need. So how do we create the culture that attracts, retains, develops the best talent? And there are incredible things about our culture, but there are things that we gotta continue to improve and modernize. And so really been focused on making sure that we're leaning into those areas as well. Just to give you a few, some of that's around focus, some of that's around teamwork, some of that's around growth mindset, and one of it's around speed. We can be a little slow at times, and there's times we need to be slow, but there's times we don't need to be slow, and so how do we continue to build those muscles? So with that, before I go to questions, first of all, it's been an incredible year. It's been an incredible year personally, but it's also been an incredible year for Principal. We're 2 weeks away from announcing our full year results. And ultimately, I'm excited about our results and very excited for the future of Principal and Principal here in Central Iowa and the Des Moines community. So with that, I will open it up for questions.
Since your IPO, have you grown with acquisitions or organic growth?
It's really been a combination of both. And so, you know, I'd say we always have a very high bar for acquisitions. And we've also divested of businesses over that time as well. And so it's, you know, if you look at us in our 145-year history and even in the 25 years that we've been public, it's been a common, you have to have a strong organic base, but we've also supplemented that with acquisitions. And on the flip side, we've divested of businesses as well that wasn't meeting our future kind of aspirations as well. And so I'll just give you a few examples. On the acquisition side, we acquired Wells Fargo's retirement record keeping business. That was a significant acquisition. We also acquired in Chile their pension business, Cupram's pension business. Those would be the two I'd mention on that side. But on the divestiture side, and again, those are never easy, but we divested of our retail fixed annuity business. We stopped and sold a portion of our retail life insurance business. And it really was about how do we continue to position ourselves for growth in the going forward. So it's really a combination of that. We want to make sure we have plans that can deliver on our aspirations organically, and then we look at ways to supplement that inorganically if needed.
What are the headwinds that Principal is experiencing or that you see?
Yeah, I'll just mention two. You know, the first thing I'd say is our results are impacted by macro environments, and so, but I'd also say we've went through pluses and minuses so many times, we kind of know how to deal with that macro volatility. So I'd say the few that I'm really focused on, one is just how do we stay relevant to our potential and future customers? People don't wake up every day saying, I want to save for retirement, I want to buy a life insurance product, I want to, you know, protect my income. And so how do we continue to stay relevant is one I think about a lot. The foundation of a lot of our growth here in the US is the small to medium-sized business market. So how do we make sure that's still a healthy part of the market that drives growth? And, you know, I'd say the last one is really, you know, being a global company. There is aspects of globalization that impacts our ability to be successful as well. And so how do we handle that in a way that positions us for growth, but understands some of those global risks as well?
You talk a lot about the mentors, your mentors, and your tenure with Principal. How do you see your role now as a mentor to others as a new CEO?
And I just remembered I'm supposed to be repeating the questions. So that question was, you talked about mentorship, how do you see your role in that? So the first thing I would say is if you go back my whole career, I've had mentors, but I've also been mentoring others. And I spend a lot of time really, we have a formal mentor program, so every year I have at least 2 across the organization. But I've also taken a lot of time to mentor what I see as our younger high potential employees. You know, I mentioned I needed people to give me the nudge, and I want to make sure that, one, people understand that, first of all, you can do both work and life. And so I want to make sure people understand that, because I find that people sometimes take them out of consideration for things, either because they don't think they can, they don't see that the person doing it today looks like them or has the same impacts of them, and then ultimately want them to understand the potential that they can have at Principal as well. And so again, I don't want to spread myself too thin, but it's important of me to have those connections both at Principal but in the community as well. Maybe two questions.
Yeah,
We'll take you 2 back there.
In terms of AI, what do you think the impact will be in terms of headcount at Principal? And do you feel any obligation to protect, jobs?
So I get that from my employees as well, so I'm well versed in that. So the question was about AI and impact on headcount. So the first thing I would say is our job, one, is to grow our company. And if I can grow my company with the same number of people, then I don't have to go to impacting jobs. And so the great news about AI is it can impact every person's job. And it might just be impacting their productivity a bit, or we can find places that it needs to be, it can be more impactful. The other thing I've told our employees is you are not going to be replaced by AI. You're going to be replaced by an employee that has embraced AI. And so my job is I'm going to give you the tools to embrace it. What you do may need to change, and we'll have opportunities relative to that. But again, if I am a growing company that can grow at a rate that I think we're able to, my need to take headcount down is mitigated.
Two questions.
You said one more.
I got to pick.
You can do two.
What was your favorite book?
Yeah.
And secondly, to follow on with Paul, what do you see as the biggest impediments to growth going forward?
Yeah. So my favorite book, and it changes probably every 5 years, partially because I don't remember, but one of The Women. Has anybody read The Women?
Yes.
So I really like historical fiction. So it's not nonfiction, but it gives you some elements of nonfiction. But that was one of my favorite books, and it was really around the Vietnam War and some of the roles that women had during that. So impediment to growth. One is the one I just said, which is how do you continue to be relevant? The other is, even when we're seeing growth, a lot of the businesses we're in has natural fee compression. And so you're kind of starting in a hole every year because you know that to get new customers or retain the customers you have, you're going to have to think about reducing your premiums or your fees or all of that. And so it's on a gross basis you can see good growth, but on a net basis you have some headwinds you have to overcome. And so I'd say those are probably the 2 biggest impediments.
Thank you, Deanna, for being with the Rotary Club Des Moines today. If your husband asks, we would rather have you here today than him. So, but when he comes, we'll tell him the opposite. We do sincerely appreciate you sharing your time. I know you have such a busy schedule, and we're all grateful for the many ways that Principal Financial Group contributes to and strengthens the Des Moines community. So thank you again. Quick couple announcements before we leave. As always, upcoming speakers. again, try and grab a guest or a prospective member that you know would like to hear from one of these people. February 5th, Rotary Club of Des Moines member and CEO of On With Life, Gene Shelton, will be here. February 12th, Jeff Lamberti from the Italian American Cultural Center will be here to speak. And then February 19th, Kyle Gamble, Hubble Realty's president and COO, will be here to fill us in on what's going on with Hubble. So we have some other great opportunities outside of our Thursday meetings for fellowship. First, our morning fuels that we're going to continue, and you'll see this slide for the rest of the year, but February 17th, our own David Oman will be speaking. March 10th, Dick Stauffer. And then Tuesday, May 5th, will be Jackie Norris. And as always, our fuel sessions are at Freedom Blend Coffee on Hickman, and the coffee is on you, and the fellowship is free. So try and book one of those on your calendar. They are a very good opportunity to get to know one another. And then we also have several other fellowship opportunities coming up outside of our regular meetings. Josh Braby, President-elect, has been killing it with the fellowships, and so we'll be sharing more about all these in detail, but if you want to, go ahead and take a picture or mark your calendars for some of these dates. But you won't want to miss out on, the Dinner Club, Bourbon Club, our March Madness fellowship, and then our golf fellowship will start up in April. So thank you for being with us today, members. Again, almost 90 of you here today. That's great to see. Thank you for being a vital part of the Rotary Club of Des Moines. Thank you to our many guests that were here today. Good to see you. As I say, stay true to the good. We are adjourned.